Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today we're going to talk about the ship's horn, sometimes called the ship's whistle, and how it has been restored to function. This is another one of the original features on the ship that we have had to modify to use non-original means to operate. Originally, the ship's whistle runs off of steam from the ship's boiler. Our Navy contract says that we can't reactivate the ship's boilers, and we don't want any pressurized steam running through the ship. So we're not just going to put some sort of little donkey boiler or something up here to light off, and the fuel source for it to just get the horn running. One of the ways to crash start steam systems using auxiliary equipment, which is even installed in some places on the battleship, is to simulate steam pressure with compressed air. The low pressure steam used for the horn is somewhere around 100 psi off the top of my head. So if we can get a compressor of a similar psi up there, then that would make the horn work. The horn can be controlled from two locations originally. Here on the 04 bridge, just aft of the armored conning tower on the starboard side, there is a lever that's attached to a cable, and pulling this down just pulls that cable, which then opens a valve, which we're on the 04 level, so that valve is 7 stories above us, which then allows the steam into the horn. The horn has a series of diaphragms in it that when the steam hits them will vibrate, and that's what causes the ooh sound. There is a second place like this on the 08 level bridge, also on the starboard side, where there's just another handle like this in the overhead, and the two cables tie into each other and then continue up to the actual valve that opens up to modify the diaphragm. In addition to installing the air compressor to give us the pressurized gas to blow over the diaphragm, we found that initial tests didn't work. This particular horn was installed probably during our 1985 or 86 yard period. We still had the ship's original World War II era steam whistle up until that point. It seems like that one was removed and put into a warehouse and eventually ended up on USS Charleston here in the Philadelphia Navy Yard. And they replaced it with the modern whistle that's on there now that was on the ship for probably the last 5 or 6 years of her career. That whistle did sit unused for decades before we got the horn reactivated in, I think it would have been about 2019. So first trying to send pressurized gas through there, it wasn't working because the metal diaphragms weren't moving right, they weren't oscillating. So we removed one of the, I forget what it was, 4, 5, 6 diaphragms that were in there, and that gave enough room for it to vibrate. That's how it works. Let's continue up. I'll show you the lever on the 08 level and the horn itself on the 010 level. So to prevent our staff from having to run all the way up to the compressor, we put a on-off switch here, not too high up in the ship, so that you can turn on and off the compressor. What this means is if you are a guest on the ship, please dear God don't do this, and you find the horn and you pull it, it's not just going to sound this loud horn that everybody in Philadelphia hears. You have to be able to turn on the compressor first, which you won't be able to find. That said, if you find the handle and you pull it and it doesn't work, don't hang on it. Don't let your little child hang on it to try and make it work, because that's how you break the original cable that we still use to control it, and then the horn won't work for anyone. Now that we're up on the 08 bridge, the primary con, you can see that we have a horn right here above the helmsman's head on the starboard side. You can see that it is a cable that runs through a pulley and then through a pipe that comes out right here. And you can see our cable and our pipe from the one down on the 04, both attached to this plate, and you have another cable coming off of that that runs up to the horn that's still 3 stories above us. You'll notice that we added a spring so that after the horn is pulled, the spring will pull the cable and the handle back into position. I'm not sure what mechanism this would have originally had to do that, but this is how we make it go back into position, because the first time we pulled it, it just laid open until the compressor drained. From here on the 08 level, you can very clearly see the 1980s era horn that was installed. Coming out over the front of the ship in this platform that only New Jersey has, you can see that there's the original platform that comes out maybe 4 feet. Then forward of that, you can see the platform that has all the holes drilled into it to save weight, because it's now projecting so far out over it. That is where they installed the OE82 satellite antenna. On the forward face of that, you can see the horn projecting out. Looking up there, you can see that there is a big rusted pipe. That is one of the steam lines going into the horn. On the opposite side, you can see another smaller pipe. I suspect the big one is steam going in, and the smaller one is steam or condensate returning. And then in between the two, you may be able to make out that there is an electrical power cord, not quite sure what that's for, and the actual wire itself. So let me pull it here. You can see it jiggle up there between the two pipes. So now we are on the 010 level, directly beneath the horn. This is the starboard protrusion that only New Jersey has. You can see that during the Vietnam War, they literally just plated around the original superstructure to put in this box for that original Vietnam era electronic countermeasures suite that was installed on here, because New Jersey is the only one brought back in Vietnam. She's the only one that gets this configuration. In the 1980s, when she's brought back, that older style, and I can't remember what it was called, was removed and replaced with the modern style SLQ-32 or Slick 32, which is still in use in the modern Navy. And that's the equipment that would have been in here. This is one of the few spaces that the Navy stripped all that equipment out of, remember, contemporary, and took with them. So not even sure what the setup in here would have been, but we do know that they have a shipboard manufactured door with the wild locking mechanism on it, and a little viewport if somebody knocks to see what's going on there. And this is all shipboard make. This isn't a standard off-the-shelf door. That's all crazy. Look at this. Yeah, that is, you don't see that anywhere else on the ship. All right, so here is our compressor. It's on our quarterly checklist to come in and oil it, make sure everything's good. It blows down automatically out of the bottom, so we've got a container there to collect condensate that we empty when we check it out. Otherwise, this is 10 stories up in the superstructure. Unlike Yamato, Battleship New Jersey does not have an elevator in the superstructure, so it's a real haul to get up here, especially for the volunteers that installed and maintain this. So this is set up to take about 125 pounds. About 120 pounds is auxiliary steam, so that's perfect. And you can see that we've just hosed it into the original steam line here. We cut out this one section of pipe. Notice this one says steam supply, and this one used to say steam return. They stenciled it wrong. We tried that. Notice how this is unwound and unbolted, and it didn't work. We couldn't figure out. We put it on this one, and it worked right. Whatever 18-year-old kid they sent up here to do the stencils did it backwards. So it looks like we're piped into the return line. This is actually the supply line. Air goes in. We got a pump to get condensate out of the line as well. All right, so that is how that works. We've got a button down below that remotely turns this on. You've got the lever that is pulling the original wire to open the valve. When this is turned on, it takes about 5 or 10 minutes for it to come up to pressure, and then you can pull the lever, opens the flapper, and the air goes out. Works just like the horn would have, sounds just like the horn would have, but we're not having to reactivate the ship's original steam plant to do it. As far as I know, we're the only battleship that sounds our horn. This was a relatively easy install that required lot of fine tuning to get it to work right. Like obviously we got everything up here, we get it installed, and it's the wrong pipe. But it's a relatively easy fix. I highly encourage other museum ships to do this. We even collected another steam whistle off of another ship, thinking that ours might be broken. And we've got that. If you work for another museum ship and need one, reach out to me. You can come down and pick it up. We have no use for it because our original one works. We sound the horn several times a day on the ship, and you can hear it as far away as Independence Hall in Philadelphia. So, if you're ever in the area and you hear a loud horn, there's a strong chance it's Battleship New Jersey. It could be one of the other river craft here on the river. There are active ships who come here and sound their horns, but there's a strong chance that it's us. Plus, if you come out and do a tour with me, you might get the chance to sound the horn yourself. So what do you think? Do you think that horns on cars and battleships are necessary? I certainly think it adds something to the ship. Let us know in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State and also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. It's the donations that you make that allow us to do the projects like this that bring the ship back to life. We really appreciate that, and there's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue donating to support the ship. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about us in the museum. Thanks for watching.